Right now, I am successfully balancing 4 gacha games: Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Honkai Impact 3rd, and Wuthering Waves. I'm actively playing all of them every day and keeping up with the latest content. And within the next few weeks, Hoyoverse is releasing their next game, Zenless Zone Zero, which I'm very excited about. But that also means that the number of games I actively keep up with will go up to 5. I might have a problem. But I am enjoying my time with all of these games, and I don't plan on dropping any of them just yet. Since I am keeping up with all the content, a quick login in the morning and another one in the evening lets me collect all the relevant things and finish any events for any given day in each game. And then whenever a major patch is released, I just add some more time for the game that has the patch, and I'll quickly be able to return to my normal routine. Logging into these games every day has become somewhat of a therapeutic routine for me. Having a checklist of things to do, which are a stepping stone towards a long-term goal with tangible improvements along the way, is a mentality I have, believe it or not, implemented in my daily life as well. So you could say I've grown as a person and learned important life lessons from my gacha addiction. That sounded better in my head. Of course, there is some fear of missing out involved with all of this, since I like being a part of a game from the start and then seeing things through to the end, or at least for as long as I'm interested in the game. Anyway, in this video, I'd like to showcase my account for the 4 games I'm actively playing right now. I'll go over the current state of my account, what my inventory looks like, what characters I have and what state they're in, what teams I'm using, and then finally I'll go over my goals for each of the game, and then at the end I'll talk a bit more about my general philosophy and method for playing gacha games. So let's begin where it all started for me, with Genshin Impact. I've been playing Genshin Impact since the release of patch 1.0. It was the first gacha game I've ever played, so in the beginning I relied a lot on other content creators to explain things I didn't understand, such as very basic things like how the game functions with character pools and so on. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, but the story was interesting enough and I really enjoyed the exploration, and I still enjoy both to this day. Especially seeing the funny numbers reach 100% when exploring really scratches an itch for me. As of this recording, we are on patch 4.7, and this is what my map looks like. I've fully explored each zone, including the non-overworld parts such as the Chasm and Enkanomiya. At the very start of the game, I manually explored everything, but somewhere around halfway through Inazuma I started using the interactive map to save some time. This is what my stash of premium currency looks like right now. I'm sitting on around 47,000 Primo Gems, 1,200 Masterless Star Glitter, which I've never used, 5,500 Masterless Stardust, and around 150 standard banner pulls. I make an effort to always have enough Primo Gems on hand to guarantee whatever characters I want next. I don't trust that the RNG is in my favor, so I'd like to play it safe. Next up are my characters. I've managed to snag every 4-star with one exception. As for 5 stars, I have most of the ones I'm interested in, and all of the ones I have are on Constellation 0, since I don't really care about anything except having a single copy of a character. To me, having a completely new character is more fun than having just a stronger version of a single character. Of course, some of the standard banner characters are at a higher constellation, but that's just how it goes with games like this. Most of my characters are around level 80, and the ones I use the most are level 90. I've recently started focusing on leveling all of my characters a bit more, since we'll be getting a new max level increase in the future. As for teams I'm using, here are my 4 pre-made ones. Team 1 I use for material collection. Team 2 and Team 4 are my general combat teams, and Team 3 is a flex team I mainly use for doing dailies. I don't focus much on the Abyss, apart from the first 3 chambers, so most of my teams can handle whatever is thrown at them in the current version of the Abyss. And finally, my achievements. As of the end of patch 4.7, I'm sitting on 1,171 achievements, and I've picked up almost everything available, with some exceptions that need me to co-op or have another player in my world. I've completed all of the commission achievements, so I've got 99% of all the available Wonders of the World achievements, which I'm very proud of. So to finish off this Genshin section, my main goal with Genshin has always been to keep up with the exploration, story and achievements. I always do all I can to collect any available Primo Gems, be it from events, daily quest or easy parts of the Spiral Abyss. Character wise, I have a couple of must pulls like all of the Archons, and I also try to get whatever is overpowered, but I mainly just get whatever characters I find aesthetically pleasing or interesting in some way. I've played for so long that I've found my way of doing things without worrying too much about meta or optimal damage. Although I do like looking at theory crafting optimal builds and teams for characters I plan on using. Even after playing Genshin for so long, I'm still enjoying logging into the game and keeping up with things every day, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I'm also really looking forward to the patch 5.0 update to see what Hoyoverse has cooked up for us in terms of exploration and story. Just as with Genshin Impact, I've played Honkai Star Rail since its release. I kind of stumbled across it a couple of days before patch 1.0 because I didn't even know Hoyoverse was releasing a new game at the time. I'm very glad I started playing though, since it's a very low effort game to keep up with. They've got a lot of interesting characters, good animations, and the story's just getting better and better. We are as of now on patch 2.3, and again, I've explored all there is to explore, and I've found every point of interest in every map. There isn't as much of an emphasis on exploration in Star Rail, but finding all the chests nets us a nice little boost of premium currencies, so I just can't not go and find every chest, you know? In this game, my premium stash is very stacked right now, as I've got over 66,000 Stellar Jades and almost 20 special passes. I've got no standard passes though, since I just use those whenever I get enough to do a 10 pull. I've got 1,900 Undying Starlight, which I've also never used, and 9,500 Undying Embers. Star Rail is a lot more generous with the rewards, both in terms of Jades and passes each patch, so whenever there's a patch with a character I don't really care for, it quickly adds up. So the characters I do have are all the 4 stars, and just under half of all the 5 stars. I'm not as big on collecting characters in Star Rail as I am in Genshin. My main goal is for the most part just to build the Exodia team for my favorite characters, meaning I'm trying to get the teams that boost my favorite characters the most. And that segues nicely into my teams. Firefly is my latest get, so I'm running her best team as of now, since I had everything set up for her in advance. Next up is Acheron. I'm using her as of now best team as well, but I'm keeping my eyes out for whatever characters are coming up next that may boost her power even more, since there are still some improvements to be done here. And finally, my Mono Quantum team, which was my original goal to build when I started playing. These 3 teams have got me through most of the content at the highest level so far, with some changes here and there of course. Achievement wise, I've got 758 right now, which is all of the available ones that are related to story and exploration, plus some extra from here and there. Just as in Genshin, I'm trying to get as many of them as I can, but Hoyoverse made the frustrating decision to lock some of the achievements behind having certain characters. Because of that, I'm mainly just focusing on the more accessible ones and picking up whatever combat and character specific achievements that are available during some events. In some regards, I have a very similar goal in Star Rail as I have in Genshin, where I'm collecting all the readily available rewards from any of the events and whatever new content is released. I also try to clear the MOC and other cyclic game modes as much as possible. But I don't bang my head against them, since the last rewards usually aren't worth the effort if my characters aren't strong enough already. Some closing thoughts on Star Rail. The story is getting better and better, with more interesting things happening and more interesting characters appearing. And I really enjoy having Star Rail in my daily routine, since outside of any major story updates, it's very low effort to keep up with. And I can even do most of the farming automatically, simultaneously as I do other things. It might sound a bit odd that I enjoy the fact that I don't have to play the game, but that's not the case at all. It's more the fact that I can focus on the things I enjoy while still reaping any reward without much effort. A very good thing in my position when I've got so many games I'm juggling. Honkai Impact 3rd is definitely the odd one out amongst these games. I only started playing it about a year ago, when the game had already been out for over 7 years. I've got a bit of FOMO when it comes to gacha games, and I like being a part of them from the start and stick around for as long as I can or want to. So starting so late into a game was a weird move on my part. But I did it because of Star Rail. Honkai Impact 3rd has a lot of connections to Honkai Star Rail. It's even in the name. So when I learned that characters like Zele, Bronya, Himiko, and most apparent of all, Welt, had counterparts in Impact 3rd, I wanted to check it out to better understand what people were saying about them and what connections there really were. Sure, there are some references in Genshin as well, but not nearly as many. Let's jump into the account and start with the comparatively low amount of crystals I have. Just a measly 17,000 right now. There are a lot of ways to gain free crystals in Impact 3rd from cyclic game modes, but it feels like even more of a slow burn, even compared to Genshin. And the price of a pull for a character, weapon or gear is higher compared to the previous two titles as well. One pull in Star Rail and Genshin costs 160 premium currency, and in Impact 3rd they cost 280. So I feel very starved for crystals right now. Character-wise, I started in the back end of patch 6.7, so I've only got a couple that are usable at this point. The ones I have managed to carry me for a long time though, like Zele and Theresa. As for the new characters, starting from patch 7.3, I've been extremely lucky and managed to pick up all of them. Meaning I'm doing alright with the current content so far. And because of that, the only team worth mentioning is the one I'm actively using for whatever I can, and it's comprised of the 3 new S-rank characters that have come out so far. My goals with Impact 3rd are not nearly as clear as in the other games. I feel like I'm mostly just going through the motions every week now, clearing all the cyclic content and just waiting for the next story update, which is fine. But since I don't have a solid idea of what I want to do with the game, it will be the first game I drop whenever I feel like I need or want more time to do other things. However, I'm really glad I started playing Honkai Impact 3rd, because there are some parts that are really good, like the Elysian Realm story beats, the animated shorts, and the music, but there are also parts that I don't like as much, such as how slow or hand-wavy the story can be. I do want to mention that a lot has changed since I started playing in the back end of patch 6.7. With patch 7.3, they basically revamped a lot of the game, moving away from a lot of the parts that have connections to Star Rail, but improving the game as a whole. This isn't a review of the game, but if you're like me and want to try Impact 3rd to see what the story is about because of Star Rail, I think I'd recommend you to check out some story recaps or explanations on YouTube instead. But if you want to get into a new story, when it's still quite new and there isn't too much to catch up on, I think it can be a good starting point to jump in now. However, if you do want to try it out, keep in mind that even with the updates, it's still a bit of a relic of the past compared to the new systems and everything that Hoyoverse are known for now. Like, artifact farming is non-existent, which may sound like a good thing, but characters don't really function without their premium gear, so there's more incentive to pull or spend more money in the game. It's also not strictly a PvE game like the others, as there are leaderboards for things. Over the years, from personal experience, I've learned to steer clear of gacha games that have PvP elements to them. Just something I wanted to mention here. Wuthering Waves is the latest gacha game I started playing, again starting at the release on May 17th this year. The game is very much in its infancy right now and still has a lot to prove, but I had my eyes on it since the first closed beta test and got a reignited interest a week before launch when people started pumping out content for it. So when it was released, I was excited to give it a go. I really like how the game has a more modern approach to the exploration that Genshin put in motion with these types of open world gacha games. It's very fast paced and the combat feels really good. The animations are nice and very snappy, The character models look good, and there's an interesting swap mechanic in combat that seems to be abused more and more as people figure out the game. Since everyone's accounts are still very young, there's not much to show, but I can still give an overview of what I've selected from the free selector boxes and banners, what I have in general, and what I've managed to do so far. So first off, I've got just over 25,000 Asterite, the premium currency, and a handful of standard, premium, and weapon banner rolls. Kuro Games have been quite generous with giving out rolls for various reasons, which have been a weird but a welcome experience coming from a long-time Genshin player. These are the characters I have right now. I was lucky enough to get Verena on the starter banner, and then just recently I selected Encore from my guaranteed 80 pulls, and Yanshin as my selector. Weapon-wise, when I reached level 45 I chose the one-handed sword, and I was also very lucky to get String Master early on Yinlin's banner. Other than that, all the other characters are using 4-star weapons or lower. Most characters I use are at their current max level, and their skills are around level 4 to level 5. Since the game kind of requires us to have 3 teams for the Tower of Adversity, the endgame mode of Wuthering Waves, similar to Genshin's Abyss, I figured I'd at least pick characters that have good general synergies from the selector boxes, and just start from there with the goal of picking up characters that are gonna work well with what I already have later down the line. So the 2 teams I'm mainly using are the extremely strong Havoc Rover, Jinlin, and Verena, and then for my second team I use Encore, Sanhua, and Yanshin. Exploration wise, I've done all there is to do in patch 1.0, but 1.1 just released and I haven't gotten around to doing everything in the new zone yet. I like checking these things off as soon as possible though, so I should be done within a couple of days. My long-term goal for Wuthering Waves right now is to complete any events and exploration that gets added, get my teams fully leveled with functional gear, follow along with the story, which I hope improves because that's definitely the worst part of the game so far in my opinion, and then try to get whatever character looks interesting as they come out and build more teams. My goals here are very simple since I haven't played the game for very long, but I hope things stay good and that I can keep enjoying the game. Now that I've shown my accounts, I'd like to very quickly go over my philosophy and mentality with these types of games, because I think we need a certain mindset if we want to play gacha games in a healthy way, since it can easily spiral out of control. First off, I'm not free to play, but I've never topped up as in specifically bought premium currency. I have a method to my spending though, and it's nothing special really. At the start of a game, I get the battle pass and the daily login reward with the goal of building a solid foundation for my account. Doing this when I'm the most excited about the game also makes the most sense to me, since if I get more materials early, I can also do more things, allowing me to play the game more. Then when things slow down and I feel like I've got a good foundation to work with, I usually drop the battle pass, but keep the daily login reward, since it's fairly cheap and I'll be logging in each day anyway. And later down the line, I drop the login reward as well, when the game is in a lull and the daily grind is on. I might still get a battle pass and a monthly login reward every now and then, if I know there's a character I'm interested in coming up, and I want to make sure that I have enough premium currency to get them. I wouldn't say that I've figured out a good way to play these games, just that I've found a method that works well for me. But I always spend money with a goal in mind, and that goal is always long term, since gacha games are not a sprint, they're a marathon. My point is, if you enjoy the game and have some money to spend, getting the battle pass and monthly login reward is usually a lot of bang for your buck, and they allow us to hopefully spend less in the long run. If we set up a realistic goal and stick with the game, that is. I had a good time showcasing my accounts here. It's fun to actually look back and see how far I've come, especially in Genshin, since it was my first gacha game and the one I've played the longest. I don't think my accounts are anything impressive compared to what other content creators have to showcase, but I'm very happy with what I've been able to do, just with dedication and a solid goal in mind. As I mentioned before, I'm not free to play, but neither am I spending obscene amounts of money on anything either. I find myself in a good middle ground where it lets me enjoy the game without any sort of pressure, which is important to me as I want to have a healthy relationship with gacha games. The last thing I want to end on is this. Don't overspend in gacha games or have weird expectations for your account from watching other content creators' accounts. State a goal, stick to it, and don't get pressured into deviating from your path. Thanks for watching, and I hope I see you here again.